Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 11 of Down to the Wire. I'm the Shark, once again with the guy Breadstick. And today we're featuring our second special guest from the North Dallas Calaf chapter director, Thomas Moore. Thomas, how are you doing today, my man?
Good, Dalton. Glad to be here, man. Let's do it.
I like it. So obviously, just introduce yourself and talk about your basketball experience and knowledge.
Yeah. So originally from Boston, Massachusetts, born, was raised there for a few years. So big Celtics fan, big Boston sports fan, just in general. Moved to St. Louis when I was in elementary school, and was raised there, but grew up playing basketball. Man, grew up playing basketball since I was 5. In high school, got to play varsity for a couple years, and wanted to play college ball somewhere, but just didn't work out. So went to college, just got a degree, but also played a lot of rec basketball and intramurals while I was there. And in high school and kind of the very beginning of high school, got to start playing guys like Jason Tatum and OG Anunoby. Those were two of the guys that I got to compete against when I was in high school when I was playing. And Tatum on the Celtics, and OG. NBA champion, which is crazy to think about with that Raptors squad. So a little bit of my basketball history. Grew up playing and got to play some of those guys, and still love the sport now and follow it and keep up with it. NBA, college, and kind of all the above.
I like it. So obviously, since you went up against Jason Tim, obviously everyone wants to know the story and all that.
Oh, yeah. So when I tell this story, I have to clarify that I played him probably before he hit his prime in high school. I mean, when he was just kind of killing everybody in St. Louis, I played him right before that. But me and some buddies, we entered into a 3-on-3 tournament in kind of like the inner cities of St. Louis. And we played in this tournament. We played against a lot of really good teams. And we faced Tatum and his team I think in the semifinals, and it's the first team to 16 ones and twos. And I mean, Jason Tatum single-handedly beat us. He was unbelievable. He was about 6'5", 6'6" at the time. I think he's about what 6'10" now. They're saying he was about 6'5", 6'6" at the time. And man, we thought we were going to be able to guard him. We had a guy that was a few inches taller than him, believe it or not. And it didn't matter. He did whatever he wanted. He faded away. He, looped around. I mean, he was unbelievable. I think they ended up winning 16 to like 12 or 16 to 13. And I mean, he had 14 or 15 of those 16 points. He was incredible. And OG was great too. When we played OG, that was my senior year of high school. And so he was a senior, and supposedly he had a sinus infection when we played against him. So he didn't play his best game. I think he only had about 20, but he was averaging close to 30. And so crazy time.
No, yeah, definitely, especially because I watched a lot of basketball, especially in um Jason Tatum's Duke days and whenever he was getting ready for the NBA. And I think just something that you said that I've noticed a lot is that he had a really good fadeaway game, like
Yeah.
and like all during the summer league, that's all he would do was just fadeaways. And I
Yes.
think it's kind of cool to see like how he kind of managed to have that in his game, especially in high school. And this, you're saying like this was before he like
Yeah.
sprouted up, so that's like still really cool to see that that's what one of his strongest aspects of his game was.
It it really is. It really is. Everything you see him do now, and specifically some of the fadeaways and the fun little step backs that he does, he was doing when we were playing against him. It just wasn't as good as it is now. Obviously, he took some of those foundational things that, I mean, as a 15, 16-year-old, that he was good at, and over the next few years in high school, he just perfected them. And now he's in the NBA and he's doing it on guys like LeBron and Kyrie. I mean, he's unbelievable. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. He was doing. I mean, it's fun to watch him on TV now because I'm like, oh, he made that same move when I played against him. He was just a little slower then, and now he's 4 inches taller and a lot bigger and stronger and faster, and makes 50% of his shots. So crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
very good
so
stuff.
you
Very good
mentioned
stuff.
at the
So
beginning that you were a Celtics fan, and
Yeah.
so I'm assuming you've been a Celtics fan a lot of your life. Let's talk about whenever the Celtics got Kyrie, how did you feel about that? Because I know people that like the Celtics. They had mixed feelings about getting Kyrie, leaving Isaiah Thomas, and then just
Sure.
that was arguably whenever they got Kyrie and Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, and Gordon Hayward. That was a really good team on paper.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. So I personally was really excited when we got Kyrie Irving. And you're exactly right. I mean, the general consensus was pretty divided amongst Boston sports fans. I was on the side that was excited about him. I mean, he was really the first superstar. I mean, we had since the big three, but even when we had the big three with KG, Allen, and Pierce, those guys still were a little older. And we kind of caught them towards the end of their career where, I mean, we only got one championship. So when Kyrie came in, it was like, oh my gosh, we're getting another superstar, but we're getting another superstar who you could argue really isn't even in his prime yet. I mean, he got to play with LeBron. He got, he got some gold for him, but still a young guy. And I thought he was going to catapult our team. And then, just like you said, when we added Tatum and Brown, two young prospects, and then we added Hayward, I thought we were looking like a championship quality team, not just for that year, but for the years to come as Tatum and Brown got older. And so I loved when Kyrie came, but gosh, after really the first few months, I think the majority of Boston sports fans were excited for him to leave. And, he kind of was, he was kind of a cancer on the team at times. And I know a lot of people came out and said, hey, it wasn't all him. The media makes it that way, but just from what I had seen and how a lot of what we were hearing in the locker room translated onto the court, the Hayward injury didn't help that first game against the Cavs, but yeah, it just turned out to not be the thing that I was excited for. So
I like it. Good stuff. So, Thomas, I'm gonna turn back time a little bit. So obviously, like you said, Pierce, Allen, and Garnett,
sure.
you all caught them at the end of their
Yep.
prime. And then I think a big what if question would be like, what happened like if you caught them like all three of them in their primes,
Yeah.
like KG, Allen, Pierce in their primes.
Yeah.
How many championships do you think I would have been able to win
Man.
if they all three were in their prime?
Yeah. I think, Dalton, we've kind of chatted about this before, but I really think we would have won 3 or 4 because you think about it, like we got them towards the end of their careers.
Mm-hmm.
But we also got the very beginning of LeBron going to the Heat. And so we were able to beat him in the Cavs, right? And then as soon as we went to the Heat and joined with Bosch and Wade, it was like, man, there's nothing we're going to be able to do to like we can compete with them, of course. And looking back at the tape, we could have won some of those games that would have brought us to the championship. But LeBron and those guys were just too big of a powerhouse. So I think if we got them a few years before, LeBron with the Cavs really isn't. I mean, he wasn't taking them to the place that they ended up kind of getting towards the end of his time there. And then we had to obviously worry about the Pistons and the Heat, but I think we could have beaten them. I think KG, Ray Allen, and Pierce, a little younger, a little quicker, a little faster, probably would have been able to take out a D Wade, a slightly older Shaq, and I think we would have been able to beat out kind of the aging Pistons a little bit. So I would say 3, 4, who knows, maybe 5.
Oh, yeah.
That's bold though. That may be bold, but that's just where I'm coming from.
Hey, I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
If you have high hopes in your team and you just watch and know the game of basketball, you can make predictions like that.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm biased. I love my team. So but I really think 3 or 4 we could have done it. So
No, yeah, I understand the bias. I'm biased with the Warriors because that's my team, and I think
Oh,
the 2016 and the 2019 championships we both could have won if it didn't go certain ways. So I think we
yeah,
could have been 5-5, but that's a
definitely,
story for a different time.
definitely. Man.
Yeah, for sure. And so and now obviously it's talked a little bit about the past. Let's go to the present. So Celtics right now are the 5th seed,
Yeah.
and that at one point they were the 1st seed, but then until they started like losing games and all that.
Yeah.
So what is it going to take for this Celtics team to beat teams like Brooklyn with Kyrie, Harden, and Durant, and then the Bucks with Giannis?
Yeah.
Teams?
Yeah, what I think those teams do really, really well is they don't just have one, maybe two guys that are really pouring it in on the offensive end. They got 3, 4, 5 guys that are constantly contributing. And so you think about with the Nets before Harden got there, right? They had Durant and Kyrie who were playing great, and then they just had a lot of role guys around them that were able to chip in and help. Like they weren't expecting anybody outside of Durant and Kyrie to put up 20, 25 plus. But when you got a guy like Chris Levert, a Harris, a Jared Allen, guys that are all averaging 11, 14, 18, like 15 plus, that helps. That's really helpful when you got KD, who is going to bring in 25, 30 a night. Same with Kyrie. And now you add in James Harden, who, I think so far they're figuring it out pretty well. I know Kyrie was out for a little bit, but I think if those guys can figure out, hey, who's going to get the share of the scoring, that's what makes them scary, is because they have a lot of really good role players that know their role and are contributing what they need to contribute. But the Celtics right now, gosh, really outside of Tatum and Brown, we don't have anybody that's consistently pouring in. And, I even think about this last game against the Lakers. And I know we all have bad nights, right? But you look at it. I mean, Tatum had 30, Brown had 28. And then look at the rest of the starting lineup. I mean, Tice had 14, but then Walker and Smart both had 4, and they played 25 plus minutes. And so I think in order for the Celtics to compete with a team like Milwaukee, like Brooklyn, and, supposedly what the Philadelphia 76ers are showing right now, and if they want to beat any of those teams in the West, they got to have guys outside of Tatum and Brown contributing. We need Kemba Walker to get his average up into the 20s, and probably need another couple role guys to step up and start averaging 8, 10, 12 a game. I think that'll be helpful, because when you only got 2 guys that are really pouring in the numbers like that, you got guys like Brown and Tatum who are playing 40 minutes a night. They're young, but no one can play 40 minutes a night really and still, I guess unless you're LeBron James, no one's really going to be able to do that. And so I think we need more offense. We need more offense from a plethora of players.
I like that. I like that
Yeah.
take. Yeah.
And I also do like how you were like, given that Kemba has been out, because I've had him on my fantasy team, it hasn't really gone well this year. I had Kemba and he was out for like a good majority of the time. I forgot what he was out with, but so he needs to get back into his groove as well. But you were talking about how the Nets had had a lot of role players that helped them do the thing, but with the addition of Harden, they did get rid of a lot of their second string, third string players. So
Yeah.
how do you think that helps them later in the playoffs?
Man, that's a good question. Well, I think that's the opportunity for other guys to step up. Do you mean by third string, fourth string players? Do they cut some guys that maybe I'm just missing here?
Well, for the James Harden trade, they traded away Karis LeVert. They
Oh,
traded away
yep.
like other good key aspects, and Spencer Dinwiddie is out this season. So,
Yeah, true.
So I was looking like the other day. I was looking at the depth chart, and literally the only key bench player that they might have is Joe Harris if he doesn't start. And besides that, I looked at the rest of the roster, and the next best player is Landry Shamet. And I was like, man, they really gave up a lot for James Harden. So they're really taking a chance on him. And especially if this locker room chemistry is not going to work out, and especially if they can't figure out in the biggest moments who's going to have the ball in their hands, then I don't think it's going to work out. Because all 3 of these guys have known to have the ball in their hands and to take over their team in the biggest moments of the game. But again, with talking about Kyrie and his locker room issues, James Harden's leadership, and Kevin Durant, it's just going to be hard to. In my opinion, I think it's going to be hard for them to figure that out. And I see them going separate directions in the next 2 to 3 years. But if they can figure it out, they figure it out.
Yeah. What did Harden sign? What was his contract again? How many years?
I can't remember his extension with the
The
Rockets.
trade, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, gosh, well, that's a great point. What were we saying, Dalton?
I was saying that like Harden's contract was like I think it was like because I know he like signed like this massive extension in 2015
Yeah,
where like it extended his contract till 2021.
sure.
So like he got paid big. But yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a great point you brought up, Gabe. Of just man, they've really spent a pretty penny to get James Harden, and yeah, I mean, I look at that team from a like from the pure fact that they have 3 superstars. I put them as a top, for sure a top 5 team in the NBA, and I put them probably as probably the team in my opinion, most likely to get there because they have so much talent. Now,
mm-hmm.
their depth chart is pretty low, and when you have injuries, that doesn't help, and they don't have a lot. And so, I look at a guy like Jeff Green, who may need to start putting up his Boston Celtics numbers from back in the day.
Yeah.
He might need to carry off those bench guys. But that's a good point. I don't know. So far, it looks pretty good. They've been they're 6-2 in their last 8. They're starting to catch up with Philadelphia, but I know they haven't all been playing in full force together. And so I think what is going for them as well is you have the fact that Harden and KD played together in Oklahoma City, and so I feel like there is good chemistry there, and you just have championship experience with Durant and Kyrie, but you just never know with their personalities. And you're exactly right. Of hey, all 3 guys are used to being the man, and so what do you do when you tell Kyrie Irving, hey, you're not the man anymore? Kevin Durant is the guy. And what do you tell to James Harden? Because I'm assuming KD is the number 1 guy. The other 2 are not. So
Yeah, I would think so.
That's a hard pill to swallow. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But they need some guys. They need a Jeff Green or somebody to step up because they don't really have a lot on their bench.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
So let's go back to the Celtics for a second. Let's say you are the GM of the Celtics. What if you had to make one big move? What do you think you would do to bring your team to a championship? Whichever, it's either signing a player, trading for someone, firing a coach. What would you do?
Man, that's a good question. Good question. What would I do? I've always kind of said we need when we got Tristan Thompson at the beginning of the year, I was not really excited about him. I thought, hey, he's a tough player. He can get some rebounds, but I mean, I think the majority of the reason why he looked so good in Cleveland was because he had LeBron and Kyrie spreading the floor out so well. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, gosh, there's no way he's going to come to Boston and put up the same numbers. And man, he's been pretty good. He's obviously not scoring that much, but his rebounding hasn't been bad. I think I've always felt that for Boston to take that next step, we just need another solid big guy. And um, we have Tatum, we got Brown. Kemba looks like he's the guy who can run point. And we got some great defense in Tice and Smart and Thompson. But I just always felt like we need another big guy that could also put up some points. And, Ennis Cantor ended up not being that guy, which kind of was a bummer. But I don't know. I don't know who it would be. I know Andre Drummond was available earlier in the year, and I really, really wanted Boston to go after him because I think we needed that 6'10", 6'11" guy that could, play defense but also put points up. And so, if I'm a GM, I'm looking for that 6'11", 7-footer that could really, really help us in that department because I think we're good on the wings, but we don't pose much of a threat down low, if I'm being honest. And I think that we'll catch up to guys like Kemba, Tatum, and Brown who, hey, a lot of the scoring is going to come from the outside, and we don't have much of a threat inside. So, but it is nice to see guys like Robert Williams, get in there and play well. And we obviously have a 7'5" guy in Taco Fall, but he has not been that great. Yeah, Taco, we love Taco in Boston, but he probably will not be on Boston for a long time. So I think we just need a guy who can pose a threat down low. And as of right now, I just don't know if we have that. And so I think I'd make a trade. I don't know who I would trade at this moment, but maybe some of these young guys that maybe don't get as much playing time. See if we can get somebody who could help us down there.
No, yeah, definitely. I would like to see Boston get a big man, maybe like a Steven Adams. I think he'd be a really good fit
Yeah.
for that roster, especially
Yeah.
now that he's not with the Thunder, he's with the Pelicans, and they're still trying to figure out their identity.
Right, right, exactly. That's a great guy right there. So I don't know what it would take. I don't know what Ainge is thinking up there, but I look at this team and I'm like, there's no way we're gonna have somebody who can guard an Anthony Davis or can take care of a Giannis down low. Although Giannis plays everywhere, we need somebody who can kind of be that brick wall. And Steven Adams is a great guy as well. And so I don't know what it would take to get him. I'm assuming it might take a little bit. So we just have to take a risk there.
Yeah, and I think with what the Celtics look like they're producing, I think they're more probably building for the future, waiting till Tatum and Brown and maybe Kemba hit their primes, like prime, the championship chase. But I honestly don't know. We'll have to see what happens in the later future. Hopefully, it pans out well for them because
Yeah.
I would love to see that team get a good championship because that is a well-rounded team
Yes.
with a lot of future aspects. But
Yep.
we also have to wait for people like Steph Curry, LeBron, James
Sure.
Harden, to like retire and really have like, because I think an interesting point I heard the other day was, I think it was Max Kellerman. I maybe like a year ago they recorded this, but he said that Jason Tatum is gonna be the face of the league in the next few years, and I don't arguably doubt that. I think Jason Tatum is a good player. I just think with one, the West being so stacked, two, having so many older guys that are playing better than him, it kind of overshadows what he's doing. And I think that's what a lot of these young players are getting that effects. Like another young player that I like to talk about a lot, De'Aaron Fox. He's a really good young player, and he has really good production, but the Kings aren't doing well, and there's just other point guards in the West specifically that overshadow him.
Sure. Yeah, no, definitely. And you think about it. Tatum's 22 years old. Like he's only 22. He's been in the league. Is this his fourth year now? Fourth
Yeah,
year?
fourth year.
Am I right on that?
Yeah.
22 years old. He's already been playing 4 years. And like I would agree with Max. And from as objective as I can be, you're just thinking about the numbers that he's putting up now. I mean, what is he averaging here? Gosh, he's averaging.
And the thing I like about Jason Tatum specifically is like he's not very vocal about anything. He just kind of leaves it out on the court, and I like that type of thing in a player.
He lets his game do the talking. He's averaging 27 a game. He's just signed a nice contract with us. I would agree. I just think here's the problem that I think most teams deal with is they just don't always do a great job of building talent around them. And I think, I think a good example of this may even be the Wizards a few years ago when they had Brad Beal, who, not to say Brad Beal isn't still killing it. He's killing it. I mean, he's been killing it. And I think that's the problem is that even when John Wall went down, it was like, gosh, they're not really adding a ton of great pieces around him that I think are making the Wizards a playoff contention, championship contending team. Their best player was like Trevor Ariza next to him. And it's like, oh my gosh, this guy needs some help. And so I think that's the biggest thing that the Celtics are going to need to be wary of is, yes, to your point, Gabe, of hey, we want these guys to kind of get in their prime some. I don't know if Kemba Walker's in his prime or if he's kind of starting to, because he's like 30, 31 now.
Yeah.
Is that right? He's 30?
He's pretty deep into his career.
Yeah.
So I would say he's probably towards the latter half of his. And you got Brown and Tatum, 23, 22, coming up on theirs, if we're playing it by age, which I think is a big part of it. But they just got to make sure that they don't run their contracts out and never surround them with the right guys. Because if a Tatum plays these next few years and we don't get out of the second round and nothing has really changed around him, I wouldn't be surprised if he left. And so that's the problem with teams who get young superstars like this is the downfall is the plus side is, oh my gosh, you have the next whoever, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, whatever. But the downside is they don't always fill the gaps around them. and then they never get to where they could be. And you got guys who, I think even in the NFL, think of Deshaun Watson, who, did y'all see J.J. Watt's little video to him after they lost
Yeah.
the first round? He's like, sorry, we wasted another year of yours. And I think that's what happens when you get a lot of young talents. And Celtics have done that in the past. And so I hope they don't do it again. But Brown and Tatum need some more help. And I think they need a big guy. So
yeah, I agree with that for sure. For sure. And
All right, Dalton, you
now
want to hit us with one more topic before we wrap up?
yeah, I'll hit him up with one more question.
Cool.
So obviously you have guys in the East like with the Nets of Kyrie, KD,
yeah,
Harden, and then guys like Giannis. Do you
Sure.
think? So now my next question to you is that with Jason Tatum, with him only being 22 years old, do you think he's hitting his prime now, or do you think he's yet to hit his full potential?
I definitely don't think he's his full potential. And it's hard because I think it just depends what you mean by prime. And I guess by prime, if we're defining this together, is the kind of the peak of their career. Like, this is the best they'll ever be. Right. And age has a lot to do with that. And so I would say no. I would say he's averaging what? Golly, he's averaging 27 a game now as a 22-year-old, which is amazing. And it's just only gotten better throughout the years, right? Man, I think he still has a 2 to 4 years before we're like, okay, Tatum's in his prime. I really do. I think once he hits kind of the second half of the 20s, I think we'll begin to say, like, gosh, this guy's in his prime. And normally when guys get to the beginning of their 30s and a little bit after that, they start to decline a little bit, unless you're LeBron James. But Jason Tatum, I think we still got a lot, which is really, from a Boston Celtics fan's perspective, is really, really fun. I think we still have a lot to see from him. And I think, pending no injuries, I think Tatum will go down as probably one of the greats. I mean, the only other guy I can think of outside of Jaylen Brown that's putting up these kind of numbers at that age is Luka from Dallas. So, I mean, that guy is amazing. And so I would say those three probably are the face of the NBA for the years to come.
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure. And it looks like we are on the time. We just want to say thank you to Thomas for jumping in on here. It was a blast having you. And obviously make sure you follow his Instagram. We're gonna put that in the description. And also we want to thank y'all for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on that post notification so you can watch this video as soon as it comes out. And last time, I'm the Shark alongside the Breadstick and North Dallas chapter director Thomas Moore. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.